How's it going, folks? Welcome to another fun at-home table read. Tonight, we are tackling an underappreciated John Carpenter movie, In the Mouth of Madness. I'm excited to see this one, so let's just get started. Let's start introducing ourselves. I'm Logan. I'm going to be on our action description for tonight.
Hello, I'm George. I'll be playing Trent.
Niles.
I'm Andrew, and I'm the publisher, Jackson Harlow.
I'm Erik. I will be Sutton Kane.
I'm Jen. I'm going to be Wrenn.
Hi, I'm Angi, and I'm Mrs. Pickman.
Hi, I'm Travis. I'll be playing Yarbrough.
All right. Well, here we go. In the Mouth of Madness by Michael DeLuca. The dark spot by the road that you might not notice at all is, you see, the beginning of everything. Sherwood Anderson. It is a tale, not he who tells it. Stephen King. On a huge printing press, high-tech mechanical nightmare, hundreds of moving parts slamming together in furious synchronization, deafening and hypnotic. Close on the press, kicking out paperback book covers one after the other, dozen after dozen. On the covers, as they're automatically stacked, we can read the embossed front cover, an eye-catching graphic of a black church against a cloudy sky, above which read the words, "The Hobbs End Horror" by Sutter Kane. On the back covers, as they kick out of a different press, they all promise but one thing, coming soon from Sutter Kane, In the Mouth of Madness, over and over again. Cut to exterior New York facility for the criminally insane at night. It's raining hard. Thunder booms as an occasional flash of lightning reveals a disturbing glimpse of a structure's oppressive steel and concrete facade. An ambulance, siren blaring, tears up the road towards the entrance. Cut to interior maximum security wing, nurses station night. A lone nurse crouches over the night's reports. A murmuring beyond her ward's double door suddenly catches her attention. Soft at first, it grows louder as its source approaches. It's a voice. A man's voice, a screaming voice. On the doors, as they explode inward, the nurse is startled as three struggling figures pile in front of her desk. Two huge guards are dragging a fighting, frenzied man to his final destination. The man is tied up in a straitjacket and has his face covered in a bizarre combination of mask and muzzle. Spit flies from the mask's air hole as the man screams. Guard number 1 slams some papers down at the nurse's desk.
Trent, John J.
The man suddenly goes berserk and sends a hard kick to guard 1's groin. The man starts to run off.
Hey, where you going, fucko?
Guard number 2 clotheslines the man and bounces his head off the desk. Guard number 1 recovers and slides the papers back towards the nurse. The nurse takes a long look at the man, who's still stunned.
Take him to number 9.
She leans over the desk and watches as the guards drag the man off down a long corridor. On the corridor, each side is lined with cell doors. Each door features a small barred window. The guards drag a man to the last cell at the end of the corridor. The man starts to come around as guard number 1 produces a huge rattling keychain and unlocks the cell door. On the man, as his head stirs and we see his eyes focus on what's in front of him, on the cell. As the door creaks open, a grim yellow padded affair. A single light bulb dangles from the ceiling. A sagging cot sits in the corner. On the man, as he starts to shake, the guards notice.
Uh-oh.
Get him in!
No, not me!
He grips the sides of the cell door as they try to force him in. They finally succeed as the man goes flying forward, ripping a piece of the door frame off with him. Guard number 1 pulls off the mask as the man goes in, then slams the door behind him. On the center window, as the man's face comes smashing up against the bars, we see it for the first time. It belongs to John Trent. A face aged beyond its 34 years by sheer, stark terror. Jet black hair hangs in sweaty clumps around his forehead. Dried spit decorates his chin. Tears stream from his icy blue eyes.
Wait, hey, I'm sorry about the balls. It was a lucky shot.
On the guards as they ignore Trent and walk away, nodding goodnight to the nurse as they go. On Trent, still shouting.
I'm not insane. Hear me, I'm not insane.
Patients in the surrounding cells begin to join in.
Me neither.
I'm out of E's not. It was all a mistake. Oh, yes.
On the nurse, agitated at the noise, she flips a switch on the control panel and light Muzak begins to filter into the cells. On the corridor, as it fills with Muzak, the patients quickly quiet down as the light Muzak version of Satisfaction pipes over the hidden speakers. Cut to interior Trent's cell, night. Trent sinks slowly down the side of his door as the other patients begin to slowly sing along with the Muzak, a demented lullaby.
He can't be a man because he doesn't smoke. Same cigarettes as me.
Trent listens for a moment, then runs his hands through his hair, hangs his head, total despair.
God, not the stones, too.
Cut to interior Yarbrough's office next day. Yarbrough, the faculty director, nervously watches Dr. Wrenn read Trent's file. Wrenn is a tall, thin man in his late 40s. Yarbrough is a short, fat man in his late 50s. Yarbrough fidgets as Wrenn reads. We notice a government ID card pinned to Wrenn's shirt.
Admitted last night.
Yes. During the storm? How'd you get here so fast?
We've been monitoring all admissions through police and paramedic channels. This one fit the symptoms.
Yeah, you think he's one of them?
That's what I'm here to find out.
Wrenn snaps the file shut and starts walking towards the door. Yarbrough follows. He stops Wrenn before they exit.
Things must be pretty bad out here. They're there to bring in you fellows.
Wrenn just stares at him, refusing to offer the reassurance that Yarbrough seems to crave so deeply.
Take me to him.
Cut to interior maximum security wing corridor at day. Wrenn and Yarbrough walk towards Trent's cell.
Has he made any requests?
Just one. Nothing dangerous. A single black crayon.
Wrenn considers this, then notices the Muzak. This time it's Yellow Submarine.
My yellow submarine. My yellow submarine.
Yarbrough notices Wren's reaction.
They seem to like it. Classics especially.
Of course.
They arrive at Trent's cell. Yarbrough unlocks it. He opens the door. Both men react to the sight before them. Cut to interior Trent's cell, day. The entire cell is covered with crudely sketched crosses. There are crosses on the walls, the floor, the ceiling, everywhere. The bed, the chair, even the bed frame. Hunched in the corner, putting the last cross in the last bit of space with the last piece of a whittled crayon, is John Trent. He's free from the straitjacket. Wrenn motions Yarbrough to leave, then lays a clean handkerchief down on the crayon-covered chair and sits down.
John?
Hang on.
Trent finishes the last cross and spins around. There are crosses all over him as well, head to toe.
What's up?
Trent hops up onto his cot.
My name is Dr. Wrenn. John, I'm here to try and get you out.
After all my redecorating, I think I'll stay.
Well, I have a guard with a pair of swollen testicles who swears that you wanted out of here last night.
That was last night. Today, I'll take my chances in here.
I see. The crosses are a nice touch. They'd almost have to keep you in here once they saw these. Wouldn't they, John?
You have a smoke?
Wrenn slowly hands him a cigarette. Trent puts it in his mouth. Wrenn stares at the crosses covering Trent's face. Wrenn becomes distracted by them.
Oh, does it light itself?
Sorry.
He lights Trent up.
You're waiting to hear about them, aren't you?
That is totally your line, and I am so sorry, sir. Your what?
My them. Every paranoid schizo has a them, a they, and it, stalking and spying. You want to hear about my them.
I want to know why you're here.
Things are starting to turn to shit out there, aren't they?
Let's talk about you.
How many psychos have you seen this week, Doc? How many had a clue? I have a clue.
Tell me about it.
Why not? I'll talk because you want to hear it.
Good. That's good.
Wrenn takes out a micro cassette recorder and turns it on.
You mind?
Couldn't give less of a shit.
Well, then let's begin.
I was an insurance investigator for a firm in the city, usually checking out phony claims, fraud, the usual. This all started with the disappearance, the Sutter Kane disappearance.
Cut 2, flashback, interior Atlantic Insurance Office day. Close on a nervous, overweight, middle-aged man. His fingers tremble as he tries to light a cigarette. We can tell his breath stinks just by looking at him. Sweat drips down at least 2 of his chins before finally coming to rest on the tie, which passed loud 2 decades ago. A pair of rock-steady hands reaches in and lights the cigarette for him.
Nervous, Mr. Trent.
We reveal
Mr.
John
Paul.
Trent, leaning against the desk that Mr. Paul is standing in front of. Another man, Robinson, sits behind it. Trent is clean, attractive, confident. Light years away from the man we know from cell number 9. He's doing what he likes doing best, catching people in a lie.
What the fuck I got to be nervous about? You told me, come down and sign some papers. I come down to sign the papers. I sign the papers, I get the check, right?
Trent just stares at Mr. Paul, who begins to grow more and more uncomfortable. After what seems like an eternity, Trent responds.
Usually, yes, that's the way it goes. It's just that I have a few final questions to ask you about the fire.
More questions? I answered all your goddamn questions.
Oh, of course you have. You've been damn cooperative. Atlantic Insurance appreciates it. My friend Robbie here appreciates it. Don't you, Rob?
Immensely.
All we need you to do is clear up a little argument Robbie and I seem to be having. You see, Robbie here claims that you burned down your warehouse on Northern Boulevard.
What? That's horseshit. My whole stock was in that warehouse, my whole life.
Calm down, Mr. Paul, because that's just what I told my friend Robbie when he made such an outrageous accusation.
Mr. Paul calms down.
The thing is, though, Robbie and I have been friends for a really long time, so I couldn't let something like this come between us, could I? Could I?
No.
I'm glad you understand. I thought you would. That's why I knew you wouldn't mind if I checked your story out with your wife.
My wife?
Yes, you see, we had these nagging pictures of your wife tooling around town wearing articles which you claimed perished in the fire.
Trent throws a package of photos into Mr. Paul's lap.
And you know what else? When I went to speak with her, she was more than eager to tell us what really went down, especially after I showed her those pictures of Miss Rosa, who seems to be wearing even more of the articles which you claimed perished in the fire.
Miss Rosa?
Trent throws another pile of photos into Mr. Paul's lap, then leans in quite close.
2 words of advice, my friend. If you're going to pull a scam, don't make your wife your partner. And if you do, don't fuck around behind her back.
Trent smiles. Cut to interior Midtown coffee shop day. Close on a plate glass window overlooking the busy street outside. Inside, we hear the buzz of a heavy lunch crowd.
That was beautiful, Johnny boy. You have the best nose for shit in the business.
Out on the street, we see a city bus hiss to a stop in front of a coffee shop window. We see the side we see its side advertisement, a coming soon ad for In the Mouth of Madness, bearing both Sutter Kane's name and the name of his publisher, Arcane Publishing. After a beat or two, the bus pulls out.
You were lucky this time. The guy's wife liked my eyes.
We pull back to reveal Trent and Robinson sharing a booth and some coffee.
You should train your agents not to sell policies to kindergarten conmen.
Agents? You mean schmucks. These greedy pricks would sell auto insurance to blind drivers if they thought it could get them commission.
Across the street, through the window, we can glimpse a frantic man emerge from the office building facing the coffee shop. Pudgy, balding, and short, the man is disturbing primarily due to the large fire axe he's gripping in both hands. Trent and Robinson haven't noticed.
Relax, Robbie. That's why you pay me. The human race is always looking to play an angle. God bless their crooked hearts. I'll always be here to clean up the mess.
While they talk, the axe maniac is making progress. He's cutting a reckless path across the street, swinging blindly. He's heading straight for the shop. Trent and Robinson remain oblivious. After all, this is New York.
Well, that's good to hear because I have a serious mess with Arcane.
Who?
Arcane. They're a publishing house and they're our biggest account. They just filed a claim. Could be millions. I need you on as soon as possible.
What's the claim?
Sutter Kane is missing.
Trent has about half a second to react before the axe maniac comes crashing through the plate glass window. He lands squarely on top of Trent's table. Trent splashes coffee all over himself as he and Robinson barely have time to cringe in their seats. For an insane instant, all is quiet, save for a few people scrambling for the exit. We hear an approaching siren in the distance. The man with the axe glares frantically about before locking eyes with John Trent. Trent makes the mistake of returning the stare. He freezes in place. On the man, it's his eyes. They're off. Too big, too oily, human yet inhuman, slightly out of proportion. The man leans down towards Trent.
Do you read Sutter Kane?
On Trent, snapping out of it.
What?
The man suddenly rears up and screams as he raises the axe high above his head. Just before he can cut Trent in half, shots ring out and the man crumples to the surface of the Formica table. The axe clangs to the floor. Trent turns and sees two city cops outside the shop, one still pointing the smoking barrel of the gun he's just fired. Trent stares back at the dead man's face. The eyes are back to normal. Trent glances over at Robinson, who's still shrunk back into his seat into shock.
Who the fuck is Sutter Kane?
Cut to interior Trent's apartment night, close on a TV screen, broadcasting a news report on the violent pandemonium at the city bookstore. People of all ages race to appear. People of all ages and races appear to be rioting and battling police shock troops. We can glimpse a display ad for "In the Mouth of Madness" in the shop's shattered window.
This was the scene outside today, outside several city bookstores. Bookstores unfortunate enough to sell out of advance orders for Sutter Kane's In the Mouth of Madness, what is surely the most eagerly awaited event in publishing history.
On Trent, watching, pouring a tequila shot with shaking hands. On the TV, as the news report gives way to a live image of the reporter himself. He's sitting opposite a more conservative female colleague, crossfire style.
Today's topic on Hot Seat, Sutter Kane. Harmless pop phenomenon or deadly mad prophet of the printed page? When does fiction become religion and are his fans dangerous?
On Trent as he clicks the TV off via remote.
Only if you count axes.
He downs the shot. Cut to interior Arcane Publishing Day, close on an illustration. Hyper real. A circle of children in a cemetery at night. All caught in the midst of transforming into something not human. Something wet, something weird, something with tentacles. A huge shape rises out of the circle, huge beyond belief, suggesting something too terrible to be rendered in more detail. The illustration is all the more disturbing because it looks like a photograph. Underneath, we see its title, The Lesson by Sutter Kane.
Mr. Trent?
Pull back to reveal Trent staring at the illustration. He turns towards the receptionist, an icy beauty, and we see there are several illustrations mounted along the wall. All are from the works of Sutter Kane. A Hobbs End horror standee faces the reception desk.
Mr. Harlow will see you now.
Thanks.
Trent heads for the inner office door. He pauses and turns back to the receptionist.
Doesn't that give you the willies?
As the receptionist looks up, Trent sees that she was reading a copy of the Hobbs End horror at her desk. She looks at Trent like he's a slow child. Trent looks at the book in her hands.
I guess not.
She turns away from him as he enters. He just misses the small trickle of blood which suddenly rolls out of one of the receptionist's nostrils. She self-consciously dabs at it with a bloody tissue and buries herself back in the book. Cut to interior Harlow's office day. A serious, stately man in his late 60s, Harlow motions for Trent to be seated.
Are you familiar with Arcane, Mr. Trent?
You're insured by the company I work for. Beyond that, sorry.
Read much?
Trent turns and sees Linda Stiles enter the room. In her late 20s, she projects a considerable combination of beauty, brains, and impatience. She's wearing the latest designer glasses, which sit on a face topped by the head of flaming red hair. Trent's immediately attracted to her.
I read a book once.
Stiles smiles. Trent's eyes follow her as she takes a seat.
Allow me to introduce Linda Stiles, one of our best editors. Linda's been handling one author of ours exclusively for the past 2 years. Perhaps you've heard of him, Sutter Kane?
Oh, that horror crap, right?
Sutter Kane happens to be this century's most widely read author. You can forget that Stephen King. Kane outsells them all.
With Sutter Kane, we found that humanity seems to be consistently drawn to the twisted and freakish.
I know, I live in New York.
Well, I've asked Linda here because she has a particular relevance to this situation.
Which is what exactly?
It is exactly that Sutter Kane vanished without a trace approximately 2 months ago, that police have turned up nothing.
Who was the last person to hear from him?
His agent. Kane supposedly sent him a portion of the new book not more than 2 weeks ago. Plain brown wrapper, no return address.
What did the agent have to say?
Harlow and Styles exchange looks. Trent gets impatient.
What?
You heard what he had to say. Apparently you were there when the poor fellow went a bit daft in Midtown. I believe you saw him shot.
You mean that lunatic with the axe, that was Kane's agent?
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you'd think a guy who outsells Stephen King could find better representation.
Trent waits for them to laugh. Nobody does.
This is no joke, Mr. Trent. Kane's books have been rumored to drive less stable readers off the deep, and agents included.
How are you holding up?
Just fine.
Linda's one of the few editors brave enough to take on Kane's work.
What's happened to some of the others?
Severe nausea, migraines, nosebleeds.
Nice. Eh? And you think Kane's agent took one look at Kane's latest masterpiece and went axe happy in broad daylight? It'd be a hell of a promotion for the new book. Great publicity.
This isn't a hoax, Mr. Trent. Surely you believe your own eyes. You were there. Besides, we have no desire to publicize Kane's connection to this incident. We simply want the man and the book back. Sutter Kane's franchise represents 80% of our income.
We've already delayed the new book 1 month. Kane's fans are getting a bit restless.
We need to know if Sutter Kane is alive or dead. Obviously, there's a great deal of money at stake. We're already in the middle of a multi-million-dollar campaign.
I'll need to see his papers, contracts.
Impossible. Kane's agent handled all the legal affairs, was a total buffer. We don't even know where Kane lived.
All we do know is that for a period before the disappearance, Kane's work became erratic, dense, more bizarre than usual. He became convinced his stories were real, not fiction, and then the work stopped coming.
Read his work, Mr. Trent. It will help you get to know him.
Might do more than that.
Trent smirks. Cut to interior bookstore day. Trent browses through the paperback horror section, feeling like the idiot he thinks he looks like. He's surrounded by Sutter Kane merchandise, some of it heralding the forthcoming arrival of In the Mouth of Madness. Trent scoops an armful of Kane paperbacks off the shelf. Titles like The Thing in the Basement and The Hobbs End Horror.
I can see.
Trent turns and notices a little boy staring up at him. The boy is holding on to a copy of The Hobbs End Horror. The kid appears feverish, sweaty. He's wearing a pair of oversized glasses held together by scotch tape. His nose is running and he's got a scab on his chin. He picks at it as he speaks.
Excuse me?
He sees you.
Your parents let you read this stuff?
All the kids read it.
Trent flashes an uneasy smile. Cut to interior subway station night. Trent waits for the train to arrive. He paces along the platform. He's carrying a shopping bag full of Kane paperbacks. He stops when he notices that he's standing in front of a Subway advertisement for the Hobbs End Horror. Part of it is peeling away from the frame. The upper right corner is folding over, just a tiny bit. Trent steps closer. His fingers reach up and grab the corner. He pulls gently, peels back a little more. He can glimpse something underneath the ad, a different ad. He can't make out what it's for, but it glimpses something shiny and black. Before he has time to investigate any further, his train pulls in. Cut to interior subway car night. Crammed beyond capacity, classic New York rush hour nightmare. Trent is on his way home, bent around other sweaty, disgusting commuters. Trent is wedged between a fat, practically bearded lady and a pimply-faced teen with a very loud Walkman. Trent opts for staring into space. He's carrying a shopping bag filled with Sutter Kane paperbacks. He notices an oozing wino slouching in the corner seat, staring at him. Trent turns away. The train comes to a sudden halt as the wheels screech and whine to a stop. Everyone, including Trent, is thrown together, slamming into the person next to them. There are assorted groans and curses.
Attention passengers, sorry for this delay. We should be moving shortly.
Just then, the lights in the car snap off, plunging everyone into total darkness.
Fucking city. God damn it.
Get off my foot.
Watch the umbrella.
Watch the umbrella.
We can
What's
still
that
hear.
smell?
We can still hear the teens' Walkman.
Turn the fucking radio down.
Cut to exterior subway station, Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, night. Trent climbs out wearily by the station's underground exit. Cut to exterior alley, night. Trent approaches an alley and starts to hear a steady thumping noise. He slowly and cautiously peers in as he reaches its entrance. Trent's POV of a street cop beating a ragged, scrawny teen with his nightstick. There's a spray paint can rolling around on the ground. Above the kid, freshly painted on the brick wall of the alley, read the words, "I can see." The cop senses Trent and looks up at him.
Yeah, you want some too, buddy?
On Trent, moving on as he hears the beating resume. Cut to interior Trent's apartment, night. Trent is planted on his living room couch, head buried in one of Kane's books. All of his lights are off, save for a reading lamp. Trent's face is a study in disgust, yet he's totally involved in the book. Until the phone rings.
Oh,
Startled, Trent sends the book flying into the air. He takes a moment to compose himself, embarrassed that he let the book get to him. He suddenly winces and puts 2 fingers on the bridge of his nose. He squints his eyes as if in pain from a great headache. Cut to interior subway car night. All is as it was before, crammed beyond capacity. Only this time, Trent is no longer standing in his old position. This time, Trent finds himself inexplicably cast as the old wino. He sits in the old wino's clothes, slouched in the old wino's seat. The bag of Kane paperback sits in his lap. He notices several people are staring at the bag of books. The train suddenly slams to a halt.
Attention passengers, sorry for this delay. We should be moving, shortly.
The lights snap off.
What? Where's the umbrella, you fat bastard?
What's that smell?
What's that? Oh.
The lights remain off. Cut to interior subway tunnel night. Trent steps onto the track, still dressed as the wino.
Turn the fucking radio down.
Trent walks away from the car. He hears a familiar thudding sound coming up from ahead. He walks towards it. His footsteps echo in the darkness. He reaches the source of all the noise. The cop from the alley is pounding away on a spray painting teen with the oversized club. The words "I can see" are spray painted along the tunnel wall. The cop slowly, agonizingly rises and turns to face Trent. On the cop, he's all wrong. His face is sallow and gray. The eyes are a wet yellow, oily. His arms hang too low, like an ape's. His mouth is way too big. The man looks all out of proportion. He advances on Trent.
You want some too, buddy?
Trent turns and runs back towards the subway car. He arrives in time to see the passengers climbing out and starting down the tracks towards him. They all carry axes and are being led by Kane's axe-happy agent. He calls out to Trent.
It's a good read!
The others suddenly hoist their axes high and begin to chop the agent to bits. We can't see it, but we hear it. All through it, the agent continues to cry out to Trent.
Ah, good read! A good read! Ah!
Crowd stops, then suddenly turns as one towards Trent. One of them, the fat lady from the train, steps forward. She's blood splattered.
He sees you.
They start after him. Trent backs up in a mad frenzy and slams right into a monstrous cop. He's about to get smashed when we smash cut to interior Trent's apartment night. Trent bolts awake from his nightmare, sweaty and scared shitless. He runs a hand through his damp hair and sweeps the Kane books off of the couch as he sits up.
freaky shit.
Cut to interior Styles' apartment night. It's late and it's dark. There's an obnoxious knocking at the front door. Styles stumbles towards the door, stubbing her toe on the umbrella stand as she ties up her bathrobe.
Right.
She hits a light switch chained to the front door that opens at a crack. Trent's there, smiling and holding up a carton of Chinese food.
I got Chinese.
Styles stares at him in disbelief. Cut to interior Styles' kitchen night. Styles reluctantly munches on a carton of vegetables as Trent pours her a beer.
How'd you get my address?
Company roster.
Couldn't this have waited till tomorrow?
I can't help it. I get excited when a case starts happening.
You've only been on the case a few days. What could have happened?
The tingling's happening.
The what?
The tingling. I get a tingling in my head when I start putting things together.
Sure, it's not the MSG.
Positive. That only accounts for my lockjaw.
Styles smiles. There's a reluctant flirtation going on.
I've been reading the books. Have you ever really looked at them?
Of course, I've edited more than half of them. They all say the same thing.
That our world used to be inhabited by another race of beings?
Beings who eventually lost their foothold here and were expelled. Kane's books chronicle these creatures' efforts to get back in. Aside from that, there's not much else to look for.
Unless you look like a detective. I did. And I think Kane told us he'd pull this. He leaves clues about his vanishing act in every book, including the last one.
Trent pulls out a notebook.
The main guy in the first book is a painter, talks about taking a long journey. The guy in the second book is a writer, talks about disappearing on the eve of his biggest success. The narrator in the last book even talks about actually moving into Hobbs End, the town where all the stories take place.
This is what your dingling tells you, that Kane went someplace fictional?
What my tingling tells me is that I may be onto another phony claim. Author disappears into own fantasy world. You and I both know what a half-decent publicist could do with a story like that. So why don't we cut this short? Tell me where Harlow sent Kane to lay low, and I'll make sure no one knows who tipped it.
We told you before, Mr. Trent, this is no hoax. We don't need sleazy tricks to sell Sutter Kane books.
No offense, it's just that I happen to deal in sleazy tricks. I'm from Brooklyn.
That much is obvious. Now, if you don't mind, it's late and I have to be up rather early.
She opens the door for him. Trent grabs his carton of food and heads for the door.
I will find him.
We want you to find him.
Trent stares at her. She starts to get uncomfortable under his scrutiny. Trent breaks it off and suddenly smiles.
You know, maybe it is the MSG.
She slams the door in his face. Cut to exterior Manhattan Street night. Trent heads for the subway, chuckling to himself, pleased that he rattled Styles. Cut to interior Styles' apartment night. She's on the phone, looking at her window. We hear Harlow's voice on the other end as he picks up.
Yes.
It's me. Trent's getting suspicious.
You can't prove anything. Whatever he proposes, go along with it.
We hear a click as he hangs up. Cut to interior Trent's apartment day. Trent is sitting on his couch, writing notes into a notepad. There are a few Kane paperbacks littered about. Trent appears to have been up all night. Dark circles sit below his tired eyes. He throws his pen down and leans back, rubbing his face with his hands. When his hands come away, he sees that he's left 2 black streaks across his face. His pen sprung a leak. He notices the ink on his hands.
Beautiful.
Too tired to clean himself up, he takes out a cigarette and starts to light up. At the last second, he notices that he's about to light the filter. He's got the cigarette in backwards. He frowns and turns it the right way.
Where the fuck did you go?
Trent stares at the Kane paperbacks. He's staring at 2 in particular. They're laying side by side at his coffee table. On the books, The Thing in the Basement and The Breathing Tunnel. Their covers, they seem to fit together like 2 pieces of a puzzle. On Trent as he stares at them. He rubs his eyes, leaving more black ink around his face. He looks like a raccoon. He suddenly breaks from his trance and wipes everything off of the table and with a sweep of his arm. Everything except the 2 books. He grabs his shopping bag and dumps the other Kane paperbacks onto the table. He starts shifting them around, turning them over, all with great speed and concentration. He's totally at the mercy of the inspiration that has seized him. As suddenly as he started, he stops. Sweating, frowning, he stares at his handiwork. Disbelief gives way to a thin smile of admiration.
Huh. Cute.
Cut to interior Harlow's office day. Trent smacks a photo blow-up of the book covers down on Harlow's desk. Harlow and Styles look at it over Trent's shoulders.
We've seen these before.
Don't look at them individually. Look at them together.
The map of the town.
Hobbs End?
Now I know why Kane had the artwork done himself.
It gets better.
Trent produces a piece of transparent plastic with a map of New England drawn over it. He lays the transparent map over the book cover, and there's a perfect match of lines.
See, Hobbs End isn't on the real map, but they match up anyway. Like it or not, Kane's book covers put Hobbs End in the middle of New England.
You're saying the man went someplace fictional?
It's real, a real place in a real state.
Yet it appears on no ordinary map.
No new map, but maybe it's on some old ones. There are plenty of forgotten towns across America. My money says Kane's having a good laugh in this one.
How can you be sure?
I need to go to be sure. You sure you want me to go?
We have nothing to hide, Mr. Trent. We desire only our fair share if Kane is dead, or our property if Kane is alive. Go with our blessing, and I'm sure you won't mind Linda accompanying you on your expedition.
Trent smiles at Styles, and she remains blank. He then turns back to Harlow.
It's your party.
Cut to exterior city highway day. Trent's rental car speeds out of New York. Cut to interior Trent's rental car day. Styles is firmly strapped in. Trent's driving has her on edge.
Can you slow it down?
Only if I grab a cigarette. Here, take the wheel.
A startled Styles grabs the wheel as Trent fishes in the glove compartment for a pack of cigarettes. He fishes amid crumpled up bags of potato chips.
I don't drive much.
I'd never know.
Cut to exterior city highway day. We see the car swerve in and out of lanes as Styles steers. Horns honk. Cut to exterior rural highway night. Trent drives by a darkened farms along a 2-lane blacktop. The road is deserted. Cut to interior Trent's car night. Styles is asleep. Trent's at the wheel. He's trying to manage a road map. Disgusted, he tosses it in the back. He suddenly reaches over, pops the glove compartment, and withdraws a small air horn, the kind annoying assholes take to sporting events. He aims it at Styles, and after a brief deliberation, blows it. The loud honk rocks the car. Styles bolts awake and screams.
Was it? Oh, what?
Trent tosses the horn into the back seat.
We're lost.
Styles stares at him, open-mouthed. Who is this guy? She reaches into the glove compartment, pulls out a bag of chips. She starts beating Trent with it.
Could you just shake me, you asshole?
Chips are flying.
Enough. Even Steven.
Styles drops the bag and picks a chip off of Trent's shoulder. She pops it into her mouth.
We lost because there's no such place as Hobbs End.
We'll see.
Cut to exterior rural highway night. Trent's car speeds through the country landscape. It feels alien. Too much quiet, too many stars. Cut to interior Trent's car night. Trent is trying to play nice.
Listen, you really like working on Kane's stuff?
You really like busting people?
I bust frauds and phonies, and yeah, I love it. Everyone's looking to get over on someone. I like being there when the shit goes sour.
How admirable.
We were talking about you. How'd you get hooked up with Kane in the first place?
I've been a fan since high school. I like being scared. Kane's work scares me.
Why? It's not real.
It's not real from your point of view. And right now, reality shares your point of view. What scares me about Kane's work is it might happen if reality shared his point of view.
How can reality share a fictional point of view?
Reality is nothing more than what we tell it to be. Sane, insane could easily be switched positions if the insane were to become the majority. You'd find yourself locked in a padded cell wondering what happened to the world.
That would never happen to me.
Trent is starting to get weirded out by the darkness, the surrounding quiet, and the eerie tone of that this conversation is taking.
Listen, if you realized everything you ever knew was gone,
Well, yeah, it'd be pretty lonely being the last one left.
it'd be horrible.
And you like that?
I like the idea of it. And so do about 60 million other readers.
Cut to exterior rural road night. The car drives down a different, less formal 2-lane road. The car is surrounded by pitch blackness. Cut to interior Trent's car night. Styles is driving while Trent sleeps. She drives carefully. She squints to make out what's up ahead. Not satisfied, she flicks on the car's brights. The high beams snap on. Something is eerily illuminated on the road up ahead. It's moving fast towards the car. As it passes, Styles sees that it's a boy on a bicycle. He rides erratically, panicked. Styles looks at his receding figure in the rearview mirror. Cut to exterior rural road, night. Later, the car drives on. Cut to interior Trent's car, night. Styles is sleepy behind the wheel. She wipes moisture from the inside of the windshield. Styles POV. A figure is approaching. As it gets nearer, Styles recognizes it as the same boy on the bicycle. This time as he passes, she catches a quick glimpse of his face. He has an old man's face. A face driven insane by sheer terror, capped by hair that is turned totally white. In a flash, he's gone.
Oh my God.
What's up?
I saw
A cow, a sheep, a pig, what?
never mind, it was nothing.
Yeah, well, tell me when it graduates to summer.
Trent rolls away and goes back to sleep. Styles drives on. She rubs her eyes. A few seconds pass. Then it happens, and it happens fast. Styles POV, the boy is right in front of her. On Styles, she gasps and hits the brakes. The car skids and swipes the boy, knocking he and the bike to the ground. Styles skids to a stop, and Trent wakes up.
It just became something.
Styles is already getting out.
Something impossible.
Cut to exterior rural road, night. Trent and Styles race towards the boy. He lies face down, the bike next to him. Trent reaches out and turns the boy over. The boy's face is a bizarre study in contradictions. He's no more than 10, yet appears 70. He has blood trickling out of one eye and one nostril, and his mouth appears to be a little bit too large, just like the cop from Trent's dream. This is not lost on Trent. When the boy speaks, it's a voice that matches his face.
I can't get out. It won't let me out.
All right. The boy suddenly breaks away from Trent and grabs his bike. He pedals off before Trent can stop him. After a beat, Trent turns to Styles and sees that she's shaking.
Hey, it's okay. He's all right.
He's all wrong.
Oh, come on. They probably all inbreed out here.
She lets him lead her back to the car. She can't tell him what she's thinking. Not yet. Cut to exterior hilltop day. It's hot and the car sits parked. Trent and Styles are out in the open stretching their legs. Trent stares at the maps in frustration.
It should be right here.
Styles looks off the hill towards a small valley.
Let's go home.
She turns towards him.
Bastard fooled me.
Styles suddenly grabs her head as if a sharp pain hits her. She hears a slight but sharp buzzing sound. It goes as quick as it came as she turns away again. She gasps when she faces the valley. Styles POV. The town is there now, where only a few moments ago there was nothing but empty land. On Styles, walking backward away from the edge of the hill.
Trent.
Trent comes over and frowns.
What?
Trent's POV of the small valley. There's nothing there. No town. Not a hint of what we know Styles just saw.
Give me a minute.
On Trent. As he's about to reply, the buzzing sound suddenly hits him. He grabs his head at the bridge of his nose and shuts his eyes for a second. A small trickle of blood escapes one nostril. When he opens his eyes again, his mouth drops open as he stares out over the valley. Trent's POV. The town is there now for both he and Styles. On Trent, turning to Styles for some kind of answer.
I've been reading the books longer. It took a while to have an effect on you.
He doesn't understand. She puts a finger to her nose. Trent takes the cue and puts his own finger to his nose. Sees the blood.
Big deal. So we didn't see it the first time.
We weren't ready to see it.
I'm always ready.
He starts walking back towards the car. He sees Styles hesitate.
Come on. Don't you want to find the truth?
He gets in and starts it up. Styles finally joins him, taking a last look at what they're about to drive into. Cut to exterior Hobbs End day. Trent's car cruises down the main street. It's a small town with both buildings and vehicles in sad shape. It looks and feels like a town that's moved on. Cars lay abandoned on the street. Some appear to have run into buildings. Doors hang open. Something happened here. Upon close inspection, the very architecture seems to meet at angles that hurt the eye. Everything's off-center. Cut to interior Trent's car day. Trent and Styles check the place out.
It's exactly as he described in the books.
Great. Where did he write we could find him?
Cut to exterior Hobbs End Main Street day. Trent parks the car and he and Styles get out. They start walking up the block, carrying their travel bags.
Missed a big party.
Trent nods towards the derelict cars. Styles glances over, but suddenly hears a distant giggle. She turns back. Styles' POV. About a few blocks down, a group of children, about 6 to 8, chase an emaciated dog across the street and into an alleyway. On Styles as she reacts and grabs Trent.
Look,
Trent turns just as the kids vanish into the alley. He sees nothing.
you
What?
didn't see them. You didn't see them. You didn't hear them?
Here, who?
She stares at him, then takes a look around.
Forget it. How do we start asking about Kane?
By finding someone to ask.
There's a hotel up the street.
How did you know that?
On the Pickman Hotel. As Trent and Styles turn the corner, Trent stares up at the modest 3-story boarding house, then back down at Styles.
I thought you'd never been here before.
I haven't, but I have read about it. This place. So have you. In the last book.
Trent looks up at the hotel's sign.
Oh yeah, the hotel from Hobbs and Horror.
They start to head in.
This must be the town he based the book on.
Cut to interior Pickman Hotel day. Trent and Styles enter. The lobby is deserted.
Well, that would explain why he'd come back here.
Styles isn't listening. She walks in, talking out loud to herself.
There should be 3 paintings behind us. Pastoral, scenes, peaceful.
Trent turns. Sure enough, there are 3 innocuous paintings hanging over a quaint country couch. Cows graze in the first one, a boy plays with his dog in another, and 2 lovers stroll by a creek in the third.
You have a better memory for Kane's detail than I do.
They approach the front desk. She steers him away from a spot on the floor.
Ooh, watch out, there are boards loose there.
Trent looks at her funny, then taps the boards with his foot. They tilt up and shift, creaking with looseness. Styles rings the bell at the desk as Trent joins her. Mrs. Pickman, an extremely cute old lady, appears out of the front office and smiles warmly at the out-of-towners.
Can I help you folks?
Sure hope so. Me and the missus here are on our way to Boston. Thought we'd take a break in your famous hometown.
She smiles as she hands him a pen. Styles just stares at her, disturbed.
Famous?
Well, sure. What with the whole Sutter Kane thing and all.
Sutter who?
Trent looks at her.
I heard he was from around here. Comes back to visit now and then.
Don't know anybody named Kane. Nobody passes through here much anymore. Let me get you your keys.
Don't you need a deposit?
Mrs. Pickman just stares at him, then suddenly bursts into laughter. Laughter that's just a bit too loud, a bit too hearty, and goes on a bit too long. Trent smiles weakly.
Oh, city folk.
She heads into the office.
Okay.
Styles turns and stares at the painting on the far wall. On the painting of the cows grazing. Just for an instant, just for a heartbeat, it looks like one of the cows moved. On Styles reacting. Cut to interior Trent and Styles' room, day. Trent is arguing with her as they unpack their bags.
We are not living inside a Sutter Kane story.
This town is a Sutter Kane story.
The town inspired the stories, not the other way around.
No. All right. This place, that woman, they're all in here.
The Mrs. Pickman in the book is a lunatic who ends up chopping her husband into coleslaw. The woman we met downstairs isn't capable of anything worse than dipping her dentures in her husband's beer.
Trent. What if Kane's work isn't fiction? What if he's been a reporter all along?
You want to report? Here, this is reality. You hear this? Reality. If what you're saying is true, there should be a black church out here with an upside down cross on its steeple.
Trent crosses towards the window and pulls the curtains open. There's nothing but scenery outside.
See? Reality.
Styles gets up, crosses to the window on the other side of the room.
You didn't read closely enough. the view was from the east.
She pulls the curtain to her window aside, revealing, off in the distance, the black church, just as it appeared in Kane's cover illustrations. On Trent reacting. Cut to close on a page of the Hobbs End Horror. We hear Trent read aloud the passage so we can see.
This place had once been the seat of an evil older than mankind and wider than the known universe.
Tilt up off the page and we reveal the black church about 30 yards ahead. Cut to exterior black church day. Trent walking with the book in his hand and Styles approach the church.
You've got me reading this thing like a fucking guidebook.
Styles isn't listening. She's looking around, mostly behind her. She knows something's really wrong with this place. Styles' POV of the streets behind her. The group of children race by again off in the distance, still chasing the emaciated dog. On Styles as she hurries to catch up with Trent.
We're wasting our time. We're supposed to be asking about Kane.
We'll have someone to ask in about 2 seconds.
As if on cue, a speeding station wagon suddenly comes screeching around the corner and heads straight for Trent and Styles. Trent and Styles leap out of the way as the car heads straight for the black church and comes to a stop in front of the decayed yard. Cut to exterior churchyard day. 8 men scramble out of the car. Some hold shotguns. They gather at the foot of the path which leads to the church's huge double doors. A large, burly, bearded man steps up and screams.
Hey!
On Trent and Styles. As they react to the name, they start running up towards the church.
How did you know?
She doesn't answer. On the bearded man as he fires a shot into the air.
Give him back!
A sudden sound from the church commands everyone's attention. It's a horrible grinding noise, as if the gears of a great and terrible machine were buckling into themselves. The mob takes a step back. A frightened Weasel cowers behind the bearded man.
See what you did?
The bearded man stares at the church. The doors open. Everyone freezes as the wind starts to whip up. Trent and Styles arrive, but stay a few feet behind the mob.
How did you know?
Again, she doesn't answer. On the doors, as a small boy of about 5 appears in the doorway. Angelic, on the bearded man as he reacts.
Johnny boy, come to daddy.
On the doors, as they start to flap in the wind, they start banging loudly against their frame as they swing open and shut in the breeze. The boy just stands there, allowing the doors to open and close in his face.
Johnny!
The bearded man starts charging towards the doors. He stops dead as the doors slam open to reveal not the boy, but Sutter Kane in the doorway, in the boy's place as if by magic. On Sutter Kane, genius, maniac, neither human nor nightmare, caught in the middle. He's halfway to literally becoming his work. He scares the shit out of you. On Trent and Styles reacting.
Kane?
On the doors, as they suddenly slam shut so fiercely that the door cracks. At the same time, a pack of jet black muscular Dobermans emerge from behind the church and charge the mob. On Styles, as her eyes widen and start pulling Trent away. They begin to run as the dogs dig into the mob. We hear shots being fired, but no dogs go down. On Trent and Styles running. They look back, and when they turn to look forward again, they stop dead in front of an eerie little girl. She suddenly appeared right in front of them and has a small trickle of blood coming out of one eye. Her teeth seem too large for her mouth. She bears that slight out of proportion look that signals advanced cane exposure. Styles is a study in dread, as if she knows who and what this girl represents.
Who are you?
She runs away to join her friends, who continue to chase the emaciated dog. On Trent, he's had enough. Cut to interior Trent and Styles' room, dusk. Trent is packing furiously. He slams clothes into his bag as Styles rants around him.
You can't leave, not now. We've seen Kane.
Good. My job's over. No payoff. Kane's alive.
But what about the new book? Our policy covers the book as well.
Fuck the book. You want it? You get it. I'm not helping anyone who's been holding out on me.
What's that mean?
It means tell me how you knew about that mob.
Styles hangs her head.
Can't bullshit a bullshitter, can you? Good, because I'll tell you how you knew. Because this whole thing is staged, that's why. You, Harlow, and Kane are putting me through this so I can go back and blab the National Enquirer about Kane's haunted town. Help you sell a few more million copies.
You're wrong.
No, I'm not. And before I leave, I'm going to get someone in this town to come clean, and then we're going to dismiss your bullshit claim.
You're wrong. I know you're wrong.
How am I wrong?
Because you're right.
I'm wrong because I'm right.
You're half right. Okay. This was a hoax, and we did send Kane away as a publicity stunt, all right? To Florida, but he never showed up. 3 weeks ago, we realized he'd vanished for real. Harlow sent me with you to make it look good.
Only we weren't supposed to find anything.
That's right, and that's why I know what we're seeing is real. We didn't stage any of this. The boy on the bike, the church, that little girl, it's all happening for real. It's all in the book. It's how I knew.
You're lying. I read the books. There was nothing about any mob, any little girl.
In the old books, in the new one, Kane described the girl, the mob, the boy on that bike, and when he pitched me in the mouth of madness, no one knew what it was except me.
And Kane's agent. What's it about, the new one?
It's about the end. Everything. And it starts here in this place with an evil that returns to take over Hobbs End piece by piece, starting with the children.
How do I know you people haven't paid this town to act out Kane's fantasies? More phony fun and games.
You can't know, only I can. And I know it's happening for real, just like he always promised.
It's fiction, Linda. Fiction.
You've got to go check the paintings, Trent. The ones in the lobby. And check the cellars. Do it!
Trent stares at her. Cut to interior Pickman Hotel, dusk. Trent comes down to the lobby. No sign of Mrs. Pickman. Trent pulls out a cigarette and starts approaching the 3 paintings. He lights up as he stares at them. On the paintings, they're different in a subtle, disturbing way. The cows grazing in the first painting now appear sickly with runny, infected eyes. The grass seems to be more brown than green. One cow seems to have sprouted larger teeth. The boy playing with his dog in the second painting appears less joyful, more frightened of the pet. The dog itself is larger. The 2 lovers strolling by the creek appear unchanged until you notice that their eyes seem a bit more recessed into their faces. There also seems to be something rising out of the water behind them. All the paintings seem to be acquiring that hyper-real quality of Kane's book covers. On Trent, staring at them, he moves forward and pulls one slightly off the wall, checking behind it. He steps up and takes a few drags of the cigarette as he continues to regard the paintings.
Nice try.
No smoking, please.
Trent turns and sees the old lady. She smiles. She's changed a little bit as well. Her eyes are red and puffy, and she doesn't seem to blink. He can only see her from the waist up. Everything else is hidden from behind the front desk. Trent hears a faint scratching noise coming up from behind the counter.
It bothers my husband.
No problem. I was just leaving. Just stopped to admire the art.
Beauties, aren't they?
Sure. Miss Stiles told me you did them yourself. Have you known each other long?
Miss Stiles? Oh, the pretty young thing you came here with. I don't know her at all. Does she know me?
She claims she does. So you're not responsible for those.
Hell no.
Well, you've got a great place here. Must be a chore to keep it clean. You look like you've been up for hours.
Been reading.
Me too. Thought I'd take a break, go for a walk.
Good idea.
Trent tries to peer over the counter to see what's making the faint scratching noise. Mrs. Pickman politely steps forward, blocking his view. Trent smiles uncomfortably, nods goodnight, and exits. As soon as he's out the door, we swing around to reveal the rest of Mrs. Pickman behind the desk. We see Mr. Pickman lying on the floor, handcuffed to his wife's ankle. He's nude and totally emaciated. He also looks to be about 100 years old. His leathery skin stretches over brittle bones. He's covered in black and blue marks. The scratching is coming from his very long fingernails scraping his wife's meaty calf in the vain effort to put up some resistance. We only see this for a few brief moments.
Hush.
Cut to interior, Trent and Styles' room, dusk. Styles is trying to use the phone. It's not working. Nothing but static. She puts it down, and as she does so, she stares at her copy of the Hobbs End Horror. She picks it up, starts flipping through it. She stares at the book's cover, the Black Church. She turns it over and sees the announcement on its back cover, coming soon from Sutter Kane, in the mouth of madness. She turns towards her view of the Black Church. Cut to interior local bar, night. Smoky, smelly. A jukebox drones on in the background amid various conversations. Trent sits at the bar, writing in a little notebook. On the notebook, Trent's written a few notes. Hobbs End, people paid off. Paintings rigged. Harlow, Styles, Kane, fucked. Bullshit. On Trent, looking over his notes.
You a writer?
Trent looks up and over, and we reveal the bearded man from the church mob sitting right next to him. The bearded man has a bandage around one hand and a few nasty scratches across his face.
No, I'm from Brooklyn.
Then take a hit, mister. Leave. This ain't no tourist town.
Trent takes a look around. Several men from the raiding party are seated at tables across the bar. They all seem sickly and pasty, infected. Kane's gotten to them.
How much is Kane paying you guys?
Kane is a dead man. Been one since he started messing with the church. Now something's come leaking out. Took the little ones first. He read his book to them. They brought it home to us. Took some sooner than others. Don't let it get to you. Just get out.
Trent looks around, lights up a smoke.
You guys are good. You, the woman at the hotel, really good.
Cut to exterior street, night. Styles is making her way towards the Black Church. She walks past shattered store windows and abandoned cars. She notices that the street is somewhat littered with spent rifle shells. A child's ball suddenly rolls up at her and stops at her feet. She freezes. A little boy of about 6 starts to approach her. She squats down and picks up the ball. He's wearing shorts and a t-shirt. As he comes closer, he appears to suffer from the same disease as the previous girl from the end. He's all out of proportions. Eyes, teeth, limbs, nothing fits. His eyes are so big that we can make out crisscrossing red veins in the whites.
Get it.
Styles hands him the ball.
Where do you live?
With you.
Who takes care of you?
You do.
He suddenly runs off. Styles rises, hears the whimper of a dog behind her, and spins around. She comes face to face with the little girl at the end and her friends. They've apparently caught the dog because it stands at one side and it's missing a leg. The little girl and several other children have small spots of blood on their faces and clothes. The little girl has bits of dog hair stuck around her mouth. When she smiles, she reveals teeth that are now pointed.
Sure, Mommy. And you know what today is?
Styles starts backing out.
Today is Mommy's Day.
Styles turns and runs in the opposite direction, towards the church. Cut to interior Trent and Styles' room, night. Trent searches the room and bathroom for Styles.
Shit.
He tries the phone. Doesn't work.
Of course.
He sits on the bed, deciding how much time he'll give Styles to come back before leaving without her. His eyes wander to the book. He picks it up, opens it, he opens it. Cut to exterior Black Church, night. Styles stands before the doors. She notices an inscription carved into one of them, and she reads it aloud.
Let these doors be sealed.
Cut to interior Trent and Styles' room, night. Trent reads to himself from the Hobbs End Horror.
By our Lord God in his year 1788, and let any who dare enter.
Cut to exterior Black Church, night. Styles continues reading.
This unholy sight be damned forever.
Cut to interior Black Church, night. It's dark, wrecked, empty. Styles enters and walks among the decayed pews. She heads over to the staircase, which leads to the steeple tower. She starts to climb it. On the stairs, Styles climbs slowly. She reaches up to the top and finds a trap door leading upwards into the steeple attic. She pushes on it. It won't budge. She stops as she hears what sounds like faint typing coming from the other side of the door. She pushes again, and it cracks open. She peers in. Styles' POV of the attic. It's very small, a dark room, hardly any bigger than a huge closet. On Styles, as she lets the door close. A sound suddenly comes from above the door. The typing again, only this time it escalates into pounding. It stops as quick as it started. Styles opens the door again and looks in. She's suddenly pulled up and carried through the door with a tremendous unseen force. It slams shut behind her. Cut to interior steeple attic night. Bigger now, bigger than physics would allow in a space as small as the tower. Bare, dark. Far off in the corner, there's a steel table with a steel chair and a typewriter sitting on top. The table is illuminated by an unseen overhead light. Kane sits in the chair, facing Styles, who rises from the floor about 5 yards away.
Linda, nice to see you again. You can edit this one from the inside looking out.
Kane starts typing again.
Kane?
Styles draws nearer, and we hear her footsteps fall into rhythm with Kane's typing, as if he's making her move forward.
I started with the children, Linda, because they're quick learners. They took it to their parents, and the parents spread it in amongst themselves. Now they're all becoming.
Styles is almost upon him, but she can still only see him from the front. She's starting to hear a squishing sound.
Coming what?
What I've already become.
Styles comes closer and looks behind him as Kane rises. We swing around to reveal that Kane's got a whole other front facing out from where his back should be. He's two different halves facing opposite directions. The half that now faces Styles is decidedly not human.
One of them!
The Kane thing points at the corner. A blaring collection of alien cries suddenly fill the room, followed by gusts of wind. On Styles, she looks. We don't see what she sees, but her reaction makes us glad that we don't. Light suddenly hits her face and her hair blows back. She opens her mouth to scream, but no sound comes out. In a second, it's over and the light is gone. On Kane as he grabs Styles and pulls her close.
Secret of my success. All those stories of horrible, slimy things trying to get back in. It was true.
He starts dragging her to his table.
Letting them in, Linda. It gave me the power to make my stories real. And now I'm writing our world into theirs.
He seats her in the chair hard and forces her to look at the manuscript.
Here's the manuscript. Here's the instrument of their homecoming. What you've come looking for. The new Bible. Fiction becomes reality. And reality becomes a memory. Read it, Linda, and learn the true nature of your existence.
On Styles, as Kane forces her head down into the pages of In the Mouth of Madness. This time she screams for a long time. Blood shoots out of burst vessels in her eyes as she stares at the manuscript.
I can see!
Cut to exterior black church night. The steeple against the sky barely visible. Black on black. Styles' cries echoes out. Cut to interior Trent and Styles' room night. Trent has fallen asleep on the bed. A knocking at the door wakes him up. He sits up, looks at the watch, then heads for the door. He opens it. Styles is there, sweat-soaked and bloody. She collapses into Trent's arms the minute the door swings open.
Linda! Linda!
He carries her to the bed. She's catatonic. He runs into the bathroom and comes back with a wet washcloth. He starts to wipe her face. The blood comes off and she appears to have no visible wounds.
Where the hell did the blood come from?
Styles' eyes snap open and she starts to grab at Trent.
It's okay, Jesus. Where the hell did you go?
I'm losing me. I'm losing me. John, help me. I'm losing me.
Her arms grab his back. Her knuckles are white.
Linda, what did they do? What happened?
So the book. Don't read it, John. Don't look at it. He's opened the door. It's already started. I looked and now I'm losing me. Tell me exits. Tell me I'm real.
Of course you're real. You're here and you're safe now. You're with me.
Trent lays her down on the bed.
Stay here. Don't move. I'm just going to see if I can find a phone that works.
Trent rushes out of the room. Cut to interior Pickman Hotel. Night. Trent races into the lobby and frantically searches for a phone. He can't find one. He slaps his hand down on a bell, but no one appears.
Come on, you old bitch.
He steps around the desk and the back office. Cut to interior back office night. Trent finds a staircase leading down into the basement. He hears a whacking sound and follows it down. Cut to interior basement night. Trent comes down. The whacking sound is stronger in the dark basement.
Mrs. Pickman.
Trent makes out an outline of a swinging bulb and grabs its chain. He pulls it and the light goes on. Trent's POV of Mrs. Pickman's silhouette. It seems to be impossibly perched on some sort of tentacles. The silhouette suggests something totally alien is going on beneath Mrs. Pickman's waist. The silhouette is whacking away at something with an axe. We glimpse another frail silhouette waving around madly. The unfortunate Mr. Pickman. Close on Mrs. Pickman. We can only see her face, which is for the most part human, except for the familiar out of proportion look. She swings her insane gaze towards Trent.
You want some too, buddy?
Trent stumbles back, hitting the stairs and falling. He can't believe what he's seeing.
You're fake.
I'm hungry.
Cut to interior Pickman Hotel night. Trent races up towards his room, not noticing the paintings. On the paintings, all three have now totally transformed. The cows grazing have now become tentacled monsters, ripping the ground away to reveal human bodies underneath. The boy has now stopped playing with his dog and started eating it, and the lovers have become half human, half cane things and have started a three-way with the things that have crawled out of the creek. All the paintings look like photographs from life. Cut to interior Trent and Styles' room night. Trent bursts in. Styles is not there, but there are deep, long gashes in the walls. Trent pounds at the bathroom door. He's still in shock.
We're going now.
Late.
Come on, no time for this shit.
Trent hears her giggle, and he notices that something is leaking out from underneath the bathroom door. Brackish water. There are tiny, slimy, salamander-like things swimming in it.
Linda, please.
Trent backs away from the door. He looks out the window. Trent's POV of the three-legged dog crossing the street down below. We hear the sounds of chaos and destruction from all over town. On Trent, scared. He hears the bathroom door click open. Styles enters the room. Her feet squish on the wet rug. Trent has his back to her. She speaks in sobs. She speaks with difficulty.
Linda, if this is phony, you got me good. Now let's go home.
Oh.
Trent starts to turn. He sees Styles. His reaction sends him back with a sudden force that he shatters the window he's been standing in front of. On Styles, we see half her face first. Normal. Then she turns. The other half is not normal. It's clenched and out of proportion. It hangs off of her skull like raw meat. The eye is totally rolled back in its socket. A tear drips from one eye, a drop of blood from the other.
Losing me.
Trent approaches her, but she smacks him away.
Read the book, John. It's easier when you know.
She comes at him. Cut to interior hallway night. Trent is thrown through the door. He comes smashing into a wall of bits of plaster and wood fall around him. Cut to exterior street night. Trent comes racing out of the hotel and into the street. He takes a few breaths, but soon focuses on the sounds around him. It's an orchestra of insanity. Cries and screams rise to a roar. The streets may be empty, but the sounds coming from within the buildings reveal where the people are and what they're doing. They're changing, becoming. And the sounds of it, it's a painful process. Trent throws his hands over his ears and runs towards the nearest shelter. Cut to interior local bar night. Trent rushes inside and slams the door shut. The sounds stop. He hangs his head. The bar is dark, but we can see that it's a wreck. Beer and liquor flood the floor, and there are dozens of gashes and scratches in the walls.
You still here?
Trent jumps and turns towards the voice. He can make out the bearded man sitting against the far wall. His clothes are in rags, and a large chunk of flesh is missing from his cheek, torn or bitten out.
Busy night. Been busy since Cain come. Start messing with the church.
Special effects, hidden speakers. You people are pros, I'll give you that.
He struggles to light a cigarette. He can't get it done.
The thing is, I can't remember is what came first, us or the book?
Trent explodes and hurls a beer mug at the bearded man. It shatters above his head. He doesn't care.
We are not living in a Sutter Kane story. You people are either phony psychos or both. This is not reality.
Reality's not what it used to be.
God, this place makes my head hurt.
Hey,
Trent looks away.
no, really, come on.
Trent slowly looks up.
See this?
The bearded man points at his wound with the tip of the shotgun he's been holding. He lets the edge of both barrels rest against the open surface.
This was done by a 5-year-old. My 5-year-old. She did me after her mom did her.
Trent looks in horror at the man's eyes start to glow yellow.
You're alone.
Trent hears a ripping sound behind the bearded man's back. It's followed by a wet sound, a slithering sound. 2 tentacles emerge from the bearded man's back, even as his features grow more disproportionate. The tentacles smack the floor like a grounded fish as the bearded man looks at Trent with an apologetic expression. His hand goes to the trigger.
Don't.
I have to. He wrote me this way.
The bearded man pulls the trigger. The blast echoes through the room, and he slumps over dead as his tentacles break off and slither into separate corners of the room. Trent struggles to the door. Cut to exterior street, night. Trent runs straight into a powerhouse smack delivered by Styles, who starts descending on him. About half a dozen changing townsperson and a few of the kids are behind her. They all appear out of proportion. Trent rises as Styles giggles. He belts her hard and she goes out like a light. He starts dragging her to the car away from the mob. Cut to interior Trent's car, night. Trent opens it up and flings Styles inside. He slips in behind the wheel as the mob staggers towards him. He stares at them, frozen, not believing what he sees.
1 and 1 is 2. 2 and 2 is 4.
Having regained some control, he opens his eyes and searches for the car keys. He can't find them. He hears a giggle at his side and looks over. Styles jingles the keys in front of her before popping them down her throat. Trent lunges for her and sticks his hand as far into her mouth as it'll go. She fights with him as the mob gets closer. Trent takes a look out the window and sees them getting closer. He belts Styles again and goes to work on the steering column. He pulls a screwdriver out of the glove compartment and hacks the console until the casing comes off. All the while, the mob gets closer. Trent starts to hotwire the car just as one of the kids put their faces against the closed driver's side window. At this point, the kid looks more like something you'd find at the bottom of the sea than anything human. Trent stares in the face for just a moment before starting the car and tearing out. Cut to exterior rural road, night. Trent's car rolls down the bumpy road. Cut to interior Trent's car, night. Trent mumbles to himself as he goes.
Never leave the city. What did I learn?
Are we leaving?
We're already home.
Don't leave me.
He doesn't answer. Cut to exterior rural road, night. Trent drives on. Cut to interior Trent's car, night later. Trent wipes the foggy moisture off of the inside of the windshield. It's grown foggy outside.
Where's the fucking highway?
Exterior rural road, night. Trent slows the car to a stop in front of an isolated phone booth. He gets out and heads for it. He stops and looks around. No telephone poles. The booth isn't connected to anything, yet it's lit from inside.
Call AAA. Call the cops. Call Mom.
He laughs to himself. He starts checking his pockets for change. He stops when he hears a squeaking sound behind him. He lets the change drop to the ground as he slowly turns around. Coming at him from down the road is the white-haired boy on the bicycle. The boy pedals fitfully past Trent, who merely looks on in silence. The boy continues down the road until he vanishes into the darkness. Then the phone in the booth begins to ring. Trent stares at it, backing away.
He's got a job for you.
Trent turns and sees a fully transformed Styles, who crawls towards him like a crab on the ground, arms bent back at impossible angles. This is too much. Trent finds himself stepping on her to get back to the car. Once he does, he tears out. Cut to interior Trent's car, night. Trent drives on behind a face of stone. He lights a cigarette and lets it dangle out of the corner of his mouth. He starts to play with the radio dial. All he gets is static. Trent's POV on the road ahead, stark and bare. On Trent, as he bolts up, the cigarette drops into his seat and burns him. He stares ahead in disbelief and he screeches to a stop. Cut to exterior Hobbs End Main Street, night. Trent is pulled back into town. The mob awaits his arrival. Trent tears out in reverse and backs out of town, leaving burnt rubber. Cut to interior Trent's car, night. Trent panics.
A few bad calls, a few wrong turns.
Cut to exterior rural road, night. Trent's car is speeding along. Cut to interior Trent's car night. Trent speeds by the boy on the bicycle. This now horrific Styles is riding in his back seat, laughing and having a great time. Cut to exterior rural road night. Trent's car swerves as he races by them. Cut to Trent's car night later. Trent tries to drive through what appears to be a dense fog. He clears the moisture away and strains to see out of the windshield. Trent's POV as the fog clears. He's driven into Hobbs End again. This time the dogs charge him. Cut to exterior Hobbs End Main Street night. Trent's car pulls a sharp U-turn and screeches away. Cut to interior Trent's car night. Trent drives on, sweaty and about to crack. Cut to exterior rural road night. Trent's car races by the boy again, only this time Styles is riding the bike alone and chasing the boy out in front of her. Trent pays them no mind. Cut to interior Trent's car night. Trent drives on, bored, expecting the inevitable. Cut to exterior Hobbs End Main Road night. Trent rolls into town. The mob awaits. Cut to interior Trent's car night. Trent draws a bead on the mob and smiles as he prepares to run them down. Styles has other plans. She suddenly appears right in front of Trent's car. Out of reflex more than anything else, Trent swerves to avoid her. Cut to exterior Hobbs End Main Street night. Trent's car skids out of control and slams into the nearby parked car. Cut to interior Trent's car night. Trent's head collides with the steering wheel, knocking him out. Fade out. Fade in exterior Black Church night. The dogs sit outside with the children. Cut to interior Black Church night. A confessional booth sits against the wall. In front of the pews. Cut to interior confessional booth night. We're on Trent's side. He sits there, trying to light his cigarettes. Shadows from the booth's partition fall on his face. He wipes matted hair away from his eyes. Kane's voice comes from the other side of the booth.
Do you want to know the problem with places like this? With religion in general?
Do tell.
I've never known how to convey the anatomy of horror. It seeks discipline through fear, yet doesn't understand the nature of creation. No one's ever believed it enough to make it real. The same cannot be said of my work.
You have a point?
I think you know it. Cynics such as yourself are my flock, who desire to be there when the shit goes sour, is shared by most of humanity. A humanity that's been waiting for its true master to arrive, to make it all this real.
Your work isn't real. This is something else.
What is it?
Mass hysteria, psycho fans. You came out here and founded some kind of cult.
I came out here and found something that used to only exist in my imagination. You need my book to see it. And once you see it, you become it. All those years, thinking it was just my dreams, not realizing they were telling me what to write.
They did a shitty job.
Don't come for a man who's seen what you have tonight.
All I have are my eyes, and I have to believe them. I'll sort this shit out later, but right now I have to believe my eyes.
He starts to fall apart.
They're my fucking eyes, and I have to believe them.
Trent takes a deep breath and calms down.
The books suck anyway.
You must try my new one. The others have had quite an effect, but this one would drive you absolutely mad.
So I hear.
It prepares you, makes you ready for the change. It's worked wonders here. We've had a very successful test market. Now it's ready for the world. It's bound to a bestseller. And very, very popular. Let me show you something.
Two thick arms shoot through the partition and grab Trent by the neck. They slam Trent's head against the partition frame. Cut to interior steeple attic night. Trent comes to in the steeple chair. A bare arm reaches out of the darkness and applies a damp cloth to his forehead. Trent bolts up and starts to focus amid all the dark space.
You promised not to leave us.
Linda?
You broke your word.
Styles rears up.
He hurt me.
Trent's eyes harden. He ignores the last comment.
Where's Kane?
Who?
Sutter Kane.
He's finishing.
She steps aside and reveals Kane at the table. He's in human form and he's typing. As he writes, a rip in reality appears behind Kane and grows wider by the stroke.
He's letting them all back in.
The rip gets bigger. Trent rises and fights his way towards the table against the fierce wind coming from the rip.
All done. The mouth of madness. Yours is delivered to John.
What?
I'll be joining my new publishers. In there, you'll have to take us back to the world for me. Take us back to the world for me. That's what you do.
What I do?
You still don't realize my book doesn't replace your world. It becomes your world. You only work in it.
No, I know what's real. I know what I am.
You're what I write, nothing more. Did you think my agent chose you by accident?
Trent reacts.
He read about you, John. In this book, he knew you would be the one to deliver to the world, to make what's happened here happened everywhere. He tried to stop you.
On Trent, mind reeling, he thinks back to the agent charging the coffee shop.
I'm not a piece of fiction.
I think. Therefore you are. You're in here, John. Read it if you don't believe me.
The rip grows wider, and the inhabitants of the other side start to come across. We can tell by the light and sound.
Spread the word.
Kane picks Trent up and hurls him out the window. Cut to exterior church night. Trent comes flying out of the steeple, bounces off the roof, and lands hard on the ground. He painfully gets to his feet and looks up at the steeple. On the steeple, it explodes in blackness. A blacker than black darkness leaks out of the aftermath and starts swallowing up everything around it. We can hear the sagging of wood and the grinding of glass and metal as the darkness begins to eat away Hobbs' End. It comes straight for Trent. Everything in its path turns gray and crumbles at its touch. On Trent, as he starts to run from the cloud, we hear its heartbeat. Cut to exterior street night. Trent makes a run for his car with the darkness at his heels. He gets in and tears out. Cut to exterior rural road night. Trent's car speeds by as the darkness eats everything behind it. Animals caught in the cloud sound different once they're inside, more bestial. We hear other things inside the darkness as well, alien things. On Trent, as he drives away, he makes a fevered look back and panics when he sees the darkness right behind him. Trent looks forward and freaks out when he sees the tree he's about to.
Shit.
On the manuscript, the mouth of madness in the front seat. Pages fly by as the car rolls along. Cut to exterior rural road night. Trent's car skids and slams into the tree. On Trent, as he smashes against the steering wheel, again, he goes out. Cut to exterior rural road day. Beautiful country afternoon. The sun reflects off of the cracked windshield of Trent's car. Trent's slumped figure begins to stir inside. Cut to interior Trent's car day. Trent slowly sits up, groggy, hurt. He puts a hand on his head. He draws a deep, painful breath. He coughs out an exhale. He opens the door and climbs out.
One too many times.
Cut to exterior Trent's car day. Trent has some initial trouble dealing with both standing up in the glare of the sun. After a few seconds, he manages both. He surveys the wreck. The car's front end is crumpled. The tree he hit bends ominously over the car. Trent watches as it cracks and falls forward. It crushes what's left of the car. After a few seconds, Trent turns away and starts walking towards the main road. Cut to exterior rural road day. Trent walks along, dazed and lifeless. He stops when he hears a sudden squeaking, the squeaking of a bicycle. Trent turns and sees a kid approaching. Trent's relieved to see that it's a normal kid on a normal bike. He flags the kid down.
Hey, kid.
The kid, about 10, pedals up to the front. He has a knapsack full of rolled newspapers.
You want a paper?
I'm a book. I thought I was from Brooklyn, but I'm actually a book, a horror novel, one that drives people insane and turns them into monsters.
That's great. Listen, you been in an accident or something?
Yeah.
Want me to get somebody?
No thanks. Just tell me which way's the highway.
Straight up.
Kid starts to pedal away.
Hey, kid,
Kid stops and turns back.
you ever hear of Hobbs End?
The kid shakes his head. No.
Thanks.
Kid pedals off. Trent starts to trudge towards the highway. Cut to exterior rural road later. Trent walks on, tired and sweaty. The unlit cigarette dangles out of his mouth. Cut to exterior highway later. Trent tries to thumb a ride. Truck pulls over. Trent gets into it. Cut to interior truck cab night. Trent sits next to a jovial 300-pound trucker.
Where are you heading?
New York.
Really? What do you do?
I'm a book, a horror novel. You're in it too. Everyone is.
The trucker looks at him. Cut to interior or exterior highway night. The truck screeches to a halt. When it leaves again, Trent is left standing on the side of the road.
Gotta stop saying that.
Cut to exterior motel night. A cheap dive off the highway. Cut to interior Trent's room night. Trent is lying on the bed fully clothed. All the lights in the TV are on. Trent suddenly picks up the phone and starts dialing a number. Cut to interior Harlow's office night. The phone rings, but the office is empty. Cut to interior Trent's room night. Trent hangs up. He heads off to the bathroom. Cut to interior bathroom night. Trent stares at himself in the mirror as the shower runs. His face is older. Cut to interior Trent's room later. Trent is in bed sleeping. All the lights in the TV are still on. Cut to interior motel lobby next day. Trent walks through the lobby. He appears more together, a little cleaned up. The desk clerk, pimply-faced teen, calls out to him.
Mr. Trent,
Trent heads over to the desk.
package for you, sir.
The clerk places a manila envelope in the desk in front of him. Trent eyes it suspicious. It bears his name, but no return address.
No one knows I'm here.
Someone does.
Trent and the package eggs the lobby. Cut to interior Trent's room day. Trent sits before the package smoking a cigarette. He stares at it. A knock on the door startles him.
What?
Housekeeping?
Not now.
Trent hears the footsteps of the maid fade away. He picks the package up and starts to open it. He pulls out the contents. It's Cade's manuscript of In the Mouth of Madness. Cut to interior motel lobby day. Trent charges towards the front desk and grabs the startled clerk by the collar. Trent holds up the manuscript.
Who delivered this?
I don't know.
Who?
I don't know. I wasn't here last night.
Who was?
A large, muscular man appears at the front office and heads towards Trent.
I was, and I didn't see shit, so let the boy go.
Trent drops the clerk and charges out of the lobby. Cut to interior Trent's room day. Trent burns the manuscript in the bathroom. He sets off the fire alarm. He's careful to keep the pages turned away from his face. Cut to exterior highway day. A large tour bus rolls by. Cut to interior bus day. Trent is seated at the window seat next to a prunish old woman with bright orange hair. She's in the middle of some erratic monologue. Trent's trying to ignore her.
I remember New York during the Depression. People think they have it bad now. You should have seen the Bowery back then. Bodies piled 2-3 feet high off the gutter.
As she speaks, her voice fades until Trent hears nothing but silence. He looks at the mouth moving. He hangs his head against the window. Cut to exterior highway night. The bus rolls on. Cut to interior bus night. Everyone but the driver is asleep. The interior lights are off. The only illumination is provided by the strobe of the passing traffic and lampposts. On Trent, as he stirs awake, he turns towards the old lady and finds that Kane is in her place. The Kane thing, actually.
Wait until you get to the end, John. The irony will kill you.
Trent clamps his eyes shut, wishing the hallucination away. He opens them, and Kane is still there.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm God now. You understand?
God's not supposed to be a hack horror writer.
You'll never know unless you read the book. But maybe I can help you believe. Look around when you wake up. Did I ever tell you my favorite color was blue?
On Trent, as he wakes up for real, his eyes widen as he looks around. Trent's POV of the bus. There's blue everywhere, where there was none before. The old lady's hair is now a decrepit shade of blue old ladies seem to favor. The inside of the bus is blue. Everyone has a blue shirt on. Even Trent's gray jacket is now blue. On Trent, screaming. Ah! Cut to exterior highway night. The bus rolls to a stop on the highway's shoulder. Cut to interior bus night. The driver and the old lady are trying to calm Trent down. Trent has his hands dug in so far into the seat that he's torn up the upholstery. He's starting to look like the man we know from cell number 9.
Relax, buddy. You're awake now.
Trent starts to settle down. He's actually crying.
It's me now? Perfect. Don't cry. It was just a bad dream.
Cut to exterior highway night. The bus rolls back into traffic. Cut to exterior New England State Municipal Building day. People hustle in and out of the official building. Cut to interior office day. A packed and smoky floor deep within the building. A sweaty fog of irritation hangs over the crowded group of people waiting in various lines. Trent is at an information counter, engaged in an intense debate with a short, flabby, middle-aged woman manning the counter. She sports a crown of poorly coiffed blue hair.
Are you deaf and dumb, Travis? Also / sir?
Trent smiles and takes a drag off of his cigarette. He's tempted to blow the smoke into the woman's face, but resists it.
Look, miss, I was there in the town. In that town, there were people there, homes, stores.
I don't doubt that. What I'm telling you for the 10th time is that it couldn't have been called Hobbs End. There never was, is, or shall be any such place by that name in this state.
Trent stares at her.
Ever.
Cut to interior, different bus, night. Trent sits way in the back, keeping an eye on the other passengers. He leans his head back. He starts to giggle. Cut to an exterior, New Jersey Turnpike day. The bus speeds towards New York. It enters the Lincoln Tunnel. Cut to interior Port Authority bus bay. A day. Trent's bus pulls into a space and hisses to a stop. Passengers begin to disembark. Trent steps out, looking rumpled but stable. Cut to interior Port Authority building day. Trent makes his way through the building towards the street. As he walks, he becomes aware of numerous derelicts and mental patients lining either side of the building, slumped in garbage. Trent becomes uneasy. Some of the derelicts are flat out staring at him. Trent walks slows. Reluctantly, he starts to stare back as he passes them. Each one is more gruesome than the last. One has chalk white skin lined with red sores. One has gray and sallow skin. Another has sunken eyes and a distended mouth. A third woman is the worst yet. She's balding, revealing a scalp covered with scabs. She laughs to herself, and every muscle in her face is clenched. She looks too much like Styles. On Trent, as he starts to shake, he backs right into a transit cop and the cop's German Shepherd.
You all right, man?
The dog starts to sniff Trent. Trent looks down at the dog, and when he looks back up, the cop has become Kane in uniform.
Read it.
Trent backs away from the Kane cop. Cut to exterior Port Authority day. Trent is dragged into a police car by 3 officers, including the one he attacked. Cut to interior precinct house night. Trent stands before the desk sergeant receiving his belongings back. Trent pockets the stuff and walks out. He notices several of the officers reading the Hobbs End Horror as he goes. Cut to interior subway station night. Trent standing by the subway platform. Other commuters give him a wide berth. For a moment, Trent seems like he's contemplating suicide. He steps closer to the platform, but finally backs away. He turns back towards the wall and notices an ad for the Hobbs End Horror. It's the same ad he's seen before, the one with the corner peeling away. He pulls on it again, and this time it starts coming off, revealing the ad beneath it. It's an ad for In the Mouth of Madness. It features his own face, running in horror from the black church. The tiny black piece he glimpsed before was his own hair. Trent stares at it. No one else seems to notice. He and the book are finally one and the same. Madison Avenue says so. Cut to exterior Trent Street night. Trent approaches his building. Trent's POV. He catches a glimpse of some freak selling cane books off of the street stand, off of a street stand, a la Dianetics. Cut to interior Trent's apartment night. Trent is awake in bed. Dissolve. Interior Trent's apartment day. Trent's in exactly the same position, and he's awake. He hasn't slept at all. Cut to interior Trent's kitchen day. Trent is making some coffee. He pours himself a cup and turns towards the table. He drops the cup and it shatters on the floor. Trent freezes. Sitting on the table, mixed in with the mail, is a manila envelope. It's the one from the motel, the one with Kane's manuscript in it. Trent picks it up. He slowly peers inside. After a second, he clamps it shut and throws it out in a rage across the apartment. It lands behind the couch. Trent turns away from the table and goes back to the sink. He lets some water run on his hand and brings it up to his face. He runs it across and then turns back to the table. The envelope is back, sitting as neat as a pin on top of the mail. Trent stares at it on the edge of a breakdown. He snatches and starts tearing it into a million pieces. He takes the pieces and exits the kitchen. Cut to interior elevator day. Trent rides down the building's elevator. The other passengers give him a wide berth. Cut to interior basement day. Trent throws the pieces into the building's furnace. Cut to interior Harlow's office day. Trent is seated in front of Harlow's desk. Harlow is standing, facing Trent.
That's quite a story. If you were an author, I'd publish it myself. Do you believe it?
If I don't, what's my option? That I'm crazy? I'm not crazy.
You've heard the rumors about the effect Kane's books have had on certain readers.
Linda told me.
Yes, the woman you claim I sent you with. Even though I know we sent you off alone, why wouldn't I remember her?
She was written out.
All I'm trying to say is maybe Kane's books had an effect on you.
And maybe I never destroyed the new book.
Well, that's how I know what you're saying isn't true.
What are you talking about?
You delivered the book 3 days ago to me personally. You found it in his uptown office. It's already in galleys.
Harlow steps aside, revealing a bound galley in the mouth of madness. Harlow smiles. Is he one of them?
Have you read it?
I never read Kane's work. I haven't got the stomach for it.
Don't publish it. Even if everything I've told you is total Looney Tunes, I know that book will drive people crazy.
Let's hope so. I've already licensed the film rights.
Dissolve 2. Exterior city day. Assorted shots of the city.
The newest and presumably posthumous work of Sutter Kane hits the stands today at #1 in the bestseller list. In the Mouth of Madness is expected to break all previous publishing records.
Dissolve to exterior Midtown bookstore day. People in line to buy Kane's book.
On the local scene, police are at a loss to explain the outbreak of violent crime among the city's clergy.
We move in on the window display jammed with copies of In the Mouth of Madness. A figure appears in the window's reflection.
The mayor has called an emergency meeting of law enforcement and medical agencies to discuss an apparent episode of paranoid schizophrenia.
We reveal the figure is Trent. A different Trent. Unshaven, dirty, and crazy. He looks like a derelict. He's wearing a long, filthy trench coat. A customer emerges from the bookstore. He's carrying a copy of In the Mouth of Madness. He reads while he walks, and he bumps into Trent.
Like it?
The customer looks up. He's got a blood tear running down one cheek.
Love it.
Good.
Trent opens his coat, revealing a huge fire axe.
Then this shouldn't be a surprise.
Trent swings the axe down, cleaving the man's chest open. He then goes to work on the store window. In the background, we hear people scream and sirens approach. End flashback. Interior Trent's cell, night. Wrenn leans back in his chair and regards Trent. Trent exhales a cloud of smoke. He then stamps the blood out on the floor. There's a long pause before anyone says anything.
It's spreading out there, isn't it?
Just because you know the symptoms doesn't mean your story is true.
There's only one true story now, and he's writing it.
But I know I'm real, not a character in a living book.
How would you know? Unless you were the one writing.
John, my daughter reads Kane's books. She hasn't mutated or murdered anyone.
Maybe she was one of them already.
One of what?
The original owners, they're back. We only rented.
I'll come back, John, I promise. I want to help you.
No hurry. It's safer in here now. It'll get worse out there.
Why?
Any species can smell its own extinction. In 10 years, maybe less, the human race will be a scary bedtime story for their kids. A myth, nothing more.
Wrenn stares at him and then exits. Cut to interior corridor night. Wrenn walks away with Yarbrough.
Did he have anything to say?
He was useless. Thinks he's fiction and that Sutter Kane's causing the epidemic.
Do you read Sutter Kane?
Wrenn declines to answer. Cut to interior Long Island Railroad train night. Wrenn sits looking out into the light. He turns away from the window and stares at his fellow passengers. Several of them are reading Kane's new book. Their eyes appear glassy and wide, weird smiles and expressions. Wrenn starts to feel uncomfortable.
Another 13 dead in what appears to be a random murder spree across the tri-state area. In an unrelated story, nothing new of the outbreak of cannibalism in the nation's capital.
Wrenn rises and moves to another car as the broadcast fades out. The people reading the book turn and watch him go. Cut to interior Wrenn's kitchen night. Wrenn is having a cup of coffee. His wife is cleaning off the kitchen counter. A crash startles Wrenn. He turns to his wife and sees that she's dropped the coffee pot. It's shattered on the floor.
Oh, I'm so clumsy lately.
As she says this, she scrapes her fingernails against the surface of the floor, creating a high-pitched screech. Wrenn winces.
Honey, please.
Cut to interior state facility night. Trent is seated in a chair in the rec room watching TV. We hear a news announcer give his report.
Multiple stabbings marred a family reunion in New Mexico.
Trent stares at the TV, unimpressed.
More on that after this special report on the Sutter Kane phenomenon.
One of the guards changes the channel by remote. Another patient, a small, wiry man, sits down next to Trent. He's got a copy of In the Mouth of Madness. He shows it to Trent.
You want it when I'm done?
No, I'm waiting for the movie.
Trent starts to laugh. The patient next to him joins in. Soon, the whole room is laughing. Cut to exterior state facility night. The laughter echoes out over the grounds. Cut to interior Wrenn's bathroom night. Wrenn gets ready for bed. He washes his face, then dries it. He looks at himself in the bathroom mirror. On the mirror, he can see his wife in the mirror's reflection. She's in bed reading Kane's book. On Wrenn as he heads into the bedroom.
Damn Trent.
Cut to interior Wrenn's bedroom night. Wrenn crosses the room and climbs into bed next to his wife. He stares at her.
Like the book?
She nods.
Almost done?
Wrenn rolls over, facing away from her.
Feeling okay?
Of course.
Wrenn closed his eyes. He hears a sudden giggle.
Darling?
What?
The lights in the room go out. But we see Wrenn's wife's eyes glow in the dark. We hear something move. Something wet.
I can see. And it's beautiful.
Fade to black. The end. And that is the very different ending of In the Mouth of Madness. Thank you all for joining us for that weird-ass Lovecraftian chaos. And, well, we'll see you at the next one.